What if the reason you're stuck isn't because you're lazy, but because you've forgotten what it feels like to want something that truly wakes you up? Think about that. When was the last time you opened your eyes in the morning and felt hungry to move? Not because you had to, not because someone was watching, but because there was a fire inside of you that refused to let you waste the day? Too many people confuse fatigue with boredom. They say they're tired, burnt out, unmotivated. But what they really are is unfulfilled, unchallenged, quietly drowning in a routine that doesn't demand anything from them except for compliance. And slowly, day by day, that comfort becomes a coffin. You weren't made for comfort. You were made for conquest, for challenge, for growth, for waking up with a mission that rattles your bones. But the world has a way of numbing that. It teaches you to settle, to accept good enough, to take the easy path and silence the part of you that craves more. But that part of you, the restless part, it never really goes away, does it? It's still there, whispering, sometimes screaming, telling you that you're meant for something greater, that you're not here just to go through the motions. And deep down, you know it's right. You can feel the tension between who you are and who you could be. And that space in between, it hurts. That ache is not weakness. It's a signal, a reminder that you still care, that there's still something inside you worth fighting for, something unfinished, something powerful, something waiting. But here's the truth that most won't tell you. That version of you, the one who's focused, driven, relentless, that person doesn't show up by accident. You have to force them out, not once, not twice, every single day. Not with motivation, not with mood, but with action. Ruthless, deliberate action. The kind you don't feel like taking, the kind that hurts, the kind that your comfort zone screams against. But that's the price. Because the life you want is locked behind a door, and that door only opens when you shove through the resistance. That resistance you feel right now, that heaviness in your chest, that voice saying, not today, maybe later, you're too tired. That's the weight you have to lift. And every time you do, something inside you shifts. Your mind gets stronger, your self-respect grows, and your future, it starts to take shape. People often think success is about having the right strategy, the right tools, the right circumstances, but more than anything, it's about having the courage to do the thing you don't want to do again and again until it becomes part of who you are. And right now you're at a crossroads. You can keep telling yourself the same story, the one that ends in regret, in missed chances, and what ifs. Or you can start a new chapter, one where you finally stop waiting for the perfect moment and create it through action. Because here's the reward. If you stick with this, you'll begin to unlock a version of yourself that doesn't flinch, doesn't delay, doesn't negotiate with excuses. A version of you that is focused, disciplined, respected, first by yourself and eventually by the world. That version of you, it's real, it's not a fantasy, but it won't come gently. You'll have to fight for it, bleed for it, get up early, stay up late, push through the days when your body wants to quit and your mind begs you to give in. But that's how the transformation happens. Not through talk, through action. So, no, you're not tired, you're not broken, you're not lazy. You're just disconnected from the challenge your soul was built for. And the only way back is forward. Forward through the resistance, forward through the fear, forward through every excuse that's ever robbed you of your potential. Today, make the decision to stop waiting. Start moving, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because once you take that first step, you'll realize something powerful. You were never stuck. You were just standing still. So why do we still hesitate, even when we know what we need to do? Because the mind is a master negotiator. It knows your weaknesses. It speaks in logic, but it's driven by fear. It tells you to wait, to plan, to think just a little longer. Not because it's wise, but because it's afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of the unknown. But here's what most people never learn. Waiting doesn't protect you, it weakens you. Every time you choose delay over action, you're training your brain to retreat. You're reinforcing the belief that it's okay to play small. That comfort is more valuable than growth. And over time, this becomes your identity, not because it's who you are, but because it's who you've practiced being. Your habits shape your reality, not your intentions. You can have every dream in the world, but if you don't act on them, they rot. Ambition without action is decay. It eats at your confidence. It drains your energy. It turns passion into frustration and potential into guilt. But when you move, when you force yourself to take that first step, You change everything. Action breaks the cycle. Even the smallest act can shatter mental resistance. Because action isn't just movement, it's a declaration, a refusal to stay where you are, a rebellion against fear, a reminder to yourself that you're in control, not your doubt, not your past, not your fear of failure. That's what most people never understand. The shift you're looking for won't come before the work. It comes during. You don't get clarity by thinking. You get it by doing. You don't become confident by waiting to feel ready. You build it by showing up, even when you feel broken, uncertain, or lost. That's where real power is forged. You build power in the moments when everything inside you screams to stop, and you keep moving anyway. Because when you act in spite of doubt, you begin to trust yourself. And that trust, that's where unstoppable momentum is born. Not from hype, not from hope, from proof, evidence that you can depend on yourself, even under pressure. That's the difference between those who rise and those who repeat the same day for years. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence. It's action, relentless, unapologetic action, especially when it's hard. You'll never find the perfect time. You'll never be fully ready. You'll never feel completely fearless. And you don't need to. You just need to start. And once you do, something unexpected happens. The fear doesn't go away completely, but it shrinks. The doubt doesn't vanish, but it loses its grip. You start to realize that the mountain in front of you wasn't half as powerful as the hesitation inside you. And when that happens, you begin to separate yourself from the crowd, because most people never push past that threshold. They live their whole lives inside the prison of hesitation, always about to change, always planning to improve, always waiting for a sign. But here's the truth. The sign you're waiting for is this moment. This is it. Not next week. Not when things settle down. Not when you feel inspired. Now. You already have everything you need to take one step forward. Not all the steps, just one. And that single step can start a chain reaction, because action is contagious. One disciplined choice leads to another. One moment of courage gives birth to 10 more. That's how transformation works. Not overnight, but every night you choose to fight for the future you want. Don't let your life be ruled by the fear of beginning, because the pain of starting is nothing compared to the pain of staying stuck. And if you don't move now, ask yourself this. How much longer are you willing to live below your potential just because the beginning is uncomfortable? You weren't born to coast. You weren't built to shrink. You were made to create, to move, to build momentum. And the only way to do that is by starting when it's hardest. That's how you become unstoppable. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're done carrying the weight of your own inaction, then stop thinking, stop waiting, just take the step. Because one step taken in discomfort is more powerful than 100 steps never taken in theory. Move now. Even if it's messy, even if you're scared, even if it's just a whisper of progress. Move. And you'll prove to yourself what you are capable of all along. That first step you take, no matter how small, holds more power than you can imagine, because it doesn't just move your body, it moves your identity. The moment you take action, you stop being the person who waits and become the person who does. That shift changes everything. Your mind begins to respond. It starts looking for solutions instead of excuses, possibilities instead of problems. And slowly the story you've been telling yourself, the one where you're always falling short, always behind, always stuck, starts to break apart, because action silences doubt. The voice in your head that tells you you're not ready, not good enough, not built for this, that voice gets quieter every time you prove it wrong. Not with words, with movement, with choices, with discipline. That's how you rebuild self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of everything. If you don't trust yourself to follow through, nothing else matters. No plan, no strategy, no goal will survive without it. You have to become someone your future can depend on. Someone who shows up regardless of how they feel. Someone who moves even when motivation is gone. Because motivation is a mood, it's unpredictable. It fades. If you rely on it, you'll only move when life feels light, when the sun is shining and the road is smooth. But greatness doesn't live there. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the moments you'd rather quit, but don't. In the silence when no one's watching. In the grind when it's just you and your decision. That's when the real transformation begins. Not in celebration, but in resistance. So when your mind says, I don't feel like it, that's your cue to move. When it whispers, let's do it tomorrow, that's the moment you must act. Because the longer you wait, the louder that voice becomes. And every time you give into it, it grows stronger. It gains control. But every time you act despite it, you grow stronger. You take back the wheel. You begin to lead your life instead of being dragged by it. Discipline is what replaces motivation, and it's forged by doing the hard thing over and over until it becomes who you are. You wake up tired, you still show up. You feel afraid, you still take the step. You don't feel ready, you start anyway. Because the moment you stop letting your emotions dictate your actions, you become dangerous in the best way. You become free. Free from hesitation, free from the chains of overthinking, free from the invisible prison built by your own comfort. You reclaim your life one decision at a time. And every one of those decisions plants a seed that grows into confidence. Not the fake kind that needs praise or applause, but the real kind, the kind that's built on evidence. You'll walk differently, think differently, because you'll know you've earned your strength. And people will feel it. The world responds differently to someone who leads themselves, because most don't. Most are waiting for someone to save them, to inspire them, to give them permission, but not you. Because when you stop waiting for permission, you give yourself power. When you stop needing the right mood, you gain momentum. And with momentum, everything changes. Problems become puzzles. Setbacks become setups. Obstacles become tests you're ready to pass. That's the reward for showing up when it's hard. And the most incredible part, you don't need to take giant leaps. You just need to move consistently, a little bit every day. One choice stacked on top of another. That's how mountains are climbed. That's how legacies are built, quietly, patiently, relentlessly. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to trust the process. Trust that if you keep showing up, something will shift, and it will. Maybe not overnight, but eventually what felt impossible will feel natural. What once scared you will become your standard. That's how growth works. It's slow at first, then sudden, then undeniable. So keep moving, keep pushing, keep showing yourself what you're made of. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel like it. Just act. And over time, your action will become your identity. You'll stop asking, can I do this? And start saying, this is what I do. That shift, that identity is where real change lives. And it begins the moment you decide that your future is worth the discomfort of now. So ask yourself right here, right now, are you going to be the person who dreams or the one who does? Because the gap between the life you have and the life you want isn't luck or time or talent. It's action. And that starts with you, right now. Action creates identity, but repetition forges it in stone. It's not enough to move once. Anyone can have a good day. Anyone can act bold for a moment. But what separates the rare few who become something extraordinary is what they do when the spark is gone, when the noise fades, when there's no applause, no rush of inspiration, just a decision staring you in the face. Do I move or do I wait? That's where most people fall. Not because they lack potential, but because they keep starting over. They wait for the perfect emotion to come back. They act when it's convenient, not when it counts. But what they don't realize is this: it's the moments when you don't feel like it that matter the most. That's where your identity is rewritten. Discipline is what remains after motivation is gone. And discipline is not a feeling. It's a commitment. A choice you make over and over again until it becomes the way you live. That's the version of you you're chasing, the one who doesn't just talk about change but embodies it. Not with noise, with consistency. Because real strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's silent. It shows up early. It stays late. It pushes through when comfort calls. It gets up when no one else is watching. And that kind of strength, it's built, not born. It's forged in repetition, in showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's thankless. Anyone can show up when it's easy. But your future isn't built on easy days. It's built on the days you fight through the resistance and show up anyway, even when your mind says quit, even when you feel like nothing is changing, because it is changing, quietly, internally. Every time you follow through, you are proving to yourself that you are no longer a prisoner to emotion. You're no longer chained to moods or motivation or how good the day feels. You are driven by something deeper, your standard. That's the shift. When you move from being someone who tries to someone who executes. someone who stops hoping and starts choosing. Because hope without action is just wishful thinking. But action, repeated, focused, deliberate action, is what turns hope into results. And that's what you're really after, not just inspiration, transformation. You want to look back and not recognize the person you were a year ago, not because they were weak, but because you refused to stay that way. You want to feel stronger, clearer, more focused. You want the momentum that only discipline can give you. But here's the truth you have to accept. No one is coming to do it for you. No one is coming to carry you through. It has to be you. And not just once, not just when it feels good. Every day, especially the ones when your mind screams to stop. Because that voice, the one filled with doubt and distraction and hesitation, it's always going to be there. But it doesn't have to win. You don't have to believe every thought. You don't have to obey every feeling. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which ones to act on. And if you can win that internal war even for 5 minutes a day, you'll start to separate from average, from excuses, from every version of yourself that ever settled for less. That's how it starts. That's how momentum is born. One win stacked on top of another. Small victories that seem insignificant in the moment, but change everything over time. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who does what they say they will do. Not just when it's exciting, but when it's exhausting. That's the kind of person who becomes unstoppable. Not because they're fearless, but because they've trained themselves to move with fear, to take action through resistance. That's what creates confidence. Not waiting to feel ready, but proving to yourself that readiness isn't required. Only movement is. And when you commit to that, when you decide that you will act no matter what, you become free. Free from hesitation, free from perfectionism, free from the version of you that never followed through. You break the loop. And in that space, you discover something life-changing. The power was never outside of you. It was never in a video, a book, a plan, or a perfect morning routine. It was always inside you, waiting for a decision. So if you're tired of feeling behind, tired of starting over, tired of watching life pass while you wait for a better time, then make the decision now. Don't negotiate. Don't delay. Choose movement. Choose discipline. Choose to take action again and again until it becomes who you are. Because that version of you, the focused one, the powerful one, the one who doesn't flinch or fold or fall apart under pressure, that person is already inside you. They just need you to show up. You already know what needs to be done. You've known for a long time. It's not a lack of knowledge holding you back. It's the weight of hesitation, that quiet resistance that creeps in every time you think about starting. Every time you feel that spark of momentum, it shows up with reasons to delay. Just wait a little longer. You're not ready yet. It's too late to start now. That voice has robbed you of more time than failure ever could. But here's what that voice doesn't want you to realize. The moment you act, its power fades. Because hesitation thrives in stillness. It feeds on your inaction. But the second you move, the second you take control, even slightly, it begins to crumble. It cannot survive momentum. It cannot argue with proof. And the only way to kill doubt is to starve it with action. You have to stop making hesitation comfortable. Stop letting it sit with you. Stop letting it speak without consequence. Because every time you obey that hesitation, you tell your mind that fear is the final authority. And every time you do that, you teach yourself that retreat is safer than progress. But the truth is this: hesitation is not safety, it's decay. It's the slow erosion of your belief in yourself. It's the silent killer of goals, dreams, and potential. It disguises itself as logic, as patience, as caution. But underneath it all, it's just fear pretending to protect you. And if you keep listening to it, it will build a life of regrets that feel comfortable until you realize how much they've cost you. You don't need more time. You need more courage, because action takes courage. It requires you to step into the unknown with no guarantees. It demands that you move before you feel ready, speak before you're certain, build before the blueprint is perfect. And that's terrifying. But it's also necessary. No great life is built by avoiding discomfort. No strong mind is built by running from resistance. The people who rise, the ones who create massive impact, are not the ones who wait for the storm to pass. They're the ones who walk straight into it, because they know that the pain of growth is temporary, but the cost of staying stuck lasts forever. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. You will feel exposed. You will have moments where you want to turn back. But that's not a sign to stop. That's a signal to push harder. Discomfort isn't a threat, it's a sign that you're in the right place. Because growth lives on the other side of resistance. Every time you push past that edge, every time you act when it's hardest, you stretch who you are. You expand your capacity. You raise your standard. And that change, though invisible at first, becomes permanent. You become the kind of person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't delay, who doesn't run when it gets real. And that identity, it's worth everything. Because when you know you can depend on yourself, when you know you'll act even when it's hard, you become untouchable. The world can throw chaos, uncertainty, failure, but you'll keep moving. Not because it's easy, but because you've trained for it. And that training starts now, not with a perfect plan, not with the right mood. Just with a decision, I will act no matter what. You start with what you have, you do what you can, and you do it again tomorrow. That's how you build momentum that can't be stopped, not from massive moves, but from consistent ones. Daily proof that you are no longer controlled by hesitation, that your future is being built by effort, not emotion. And with each passing day, your choices stack, your discipline compounds, your belief solidifies. You start walking like someone who knows who they are. You carry the energy of someone who doesn't wait to be told. You move with purpose, not permission, because that's what action gives you. It gives you your life back. It pulls you out of the shadows of self-doubt and into the light of personal power. It silences the excuses. It drowns out the noise. It makes you unstoppable, not because you never struggle, but because you never stop. That is what you've been missing. Not another reminder, not another reason, not another plan, just action. Raw, relentless, uncomfortable action. And it's available to you right now, not when you feel ready, not when you're confident, not when the fear is gone, but right now in the middle of your uncertainty, in the middle of your doubt. This is the moment. This is the battle, not out there in the world, but inside your own mind. And the only way to win is to move, because action is the weapon, discipline is the armor, and momentum is the reward. Don't wait another second. You've waited long enough. It's time to become everything you were meant to be, not someday, not later, but now. Every excuse you've ever made has one thing in common. It kept you exactly where you are, safe, unchallenged, unchanged. That's the trap, comfort disguised as logic. You tell yourself it's not the right time. You convince yourself you need more clarity, more energy, more direction. But deep down, you know the truth. You're just avoiding the discomfort that comes with becoming who you're meant to be. And you have to confront that. You have to stop giving soft lies the power to delay a hard truth. Your life only moves when you do. Nothing changes if you don't change. No matter how much you want it, no matter how much you dream, plan, hope, or talk, wishing doesn't move you forward. Waiting doesn't build you stronger. Only deliberate, sometimes painful, often inconvenient action will force the shift. That's the separation point, the one most people never cross. They're caught in the illusion of preparation, drowning in endless thought, always planning but never launching, always analyzing but never committing. And they think they're being smart, they think they're being careful, but what they're really doing is stalling, justifying fear with complexity, hiding behind the need for more information when what they actually need is movement. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Direction is found in doing. Confidence is built by showing up again and again, even when you don't feel ready. You will never feel fully ready. That moment doesn't come. What comes is discomfort, uncertainty, resistance. And what you choose to do in that space defines everything. Because that's where the real work begins. Not when everything is lined up perfectly, but when it isn't. You become powerful the moment you stop negotiating with your limitations. The moment you stop asking for permission from your past. The moment you stop letting fear set your pace. You're not supposed to have all the answers before you begin. You're supposed to begin and figure it out on the way. You're supposed to take the hit, stumble, get up, and go again. That's how resilience is built. That's how grit is born. That's how unstoppable is earned. It's not about never failing. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't break when they do. The kind of person who keeps going because the mission is bigger than their mood. Because the dream is louder than the doubt. Because the future they want is worth every struggle along the way. That's what makes the difference. Not talent, not luck, not some magical moment of breakthrough, just relentless execution, ruthless follow-through, showing up when it's inconvenient, acting when it's hard, refusing to quit even when progress feels invisible. That's where greatness lives. And it's not just about success. It's about who you become in the process. You stop being someone who waits. You stop being someone who needs external validation. You stop being controlled by what's easy, what's familiar, what's safe. You become someone who leads themselves, someone who doesn't look around for motivation but digs it out of themselves, someone who takes ownership of every decision, every failure, every step forward. And when that becomes your identity, life starts to open up. Doors you never saw before begin to appear. Not because they weren't there, but because you were too still to see them. Action reveals opportunity. Consistency unlocks potential. Discipline transforms everything. That's why you must move. Even if you don't know how it's all going to work, even if you feel lost, even if you're scared, especially if you're scared, fear is not a stop sign, it's a signal. It means you're on the edge of something real, something that could change you. And the only way through it is to lean into it. Let it sharpen you. Let it stretch you. Let it remind you that you're alive and that you still have more inside you. Because you do. More strength, more focus, more heart. You haven't come this far to stall here. You haven't fought through everything you've faced just to stay comfortable now. You're here because a part of you knows it's time. Time to rise. Time to move. Time to stop running from resistance and start using it to grow. Time to stop waiting for the right conditions and become the kind of person who creates them. You don't need easier, you don't need perfect, you just need a reason strong enough to keep you going when nothing else does. And if you're honest, you already have that reason. You already know what's at stake. Your future, your peace, your freedom, that version of you that's been buried under hesitation and fear, it's still there, still fighting, still hoping, still waiting for you to take the next step. So take it, not later, not when you feel more ready, now, because you don't get stronger by thinking about change. You get stronger by forcing it, by walking straight into resistance and showing it who you are. Every second you hesitate is a second lost to doubt. And you weren't built to live in doubt. You were built to move. Every second you move with purpose, you pull yourself further away from the person you used to be. Not because you hated who you were, but because you refused to remain unchanged. That's what evolution demands. A refusal to accept stillness when growth is calling. And growth is calling, not softly, not gently, but urgently. Life doesn't wait, neither should you. You are in a constant fight against the path of least resistance. That path will always tempt you. It will whisper about rest before work, comfort before discipline, later instead of now. But the path of least resistance never leads to greatness. It leads to mediocrity, to numbness, to a quiet life of unrealized potential. That's not what you were made for. You were made to expand, to break patterns, to shatter ceilings. You were made to challenge everything that ever told you to play small. That process isn't easy. It's violent in a way, ripping you away from excuses, breaking down every lie you've ever believed about your limits. But that pain, that discomfort, it's not punishment, it's transformation. And transformation is supposed to feel uncomfortable. You're leaving behind everything familiar, every habit that numbed your progress, every belief that told you to wait. You're stepping into a version of yourself that demands more discipline, more truth, more action. That version is already inside you, buried under the layers of doubt you've collected over the years. But action digs it up. Discipline sharpens it. Relentless effort breathes life into it. No one is going to come and flip that switch for you. It's yours to turn on. And when you do, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you become stronger. That's the real shift. Life doesn't stop being hard. You just stop being fragile. You stop breaking at every sign of resistance. You stop quitting every time it hurts. You stop hesitating every time the path gets unclear, because now you've built something deeper than motivation. You've built commitment. That's what separates the few who rise from the many who wish. Commitment doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't need permission from your emotions. It simply follows through, no matter what. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes you powerful. Because when you act from commitment, your emotions no longer control your direction. You stop being a slave to moods. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You become the moment. You become the fire that lights your own path. That force can't be faked. It's earned one action at a time. And the beautiful thing is, the more you act, the more power you build. The more you push through, the less you flinch. You begin to realize that fear isn't the end. It's the threshold. Every time you cross it, you grow. Every time you lean in, you strengthen. Fear becomes less of a threat and more of a compass. It starts guiding you toward the very things you need to face, the very places where growth is hiding. Most people run from that. They shrink, they fold, they back off. But not you, not anymore. Now you see fear for what it is, a signal that you're close to something important, that you're about to stretch, that you're on the edge of becoming. And when you embrace it, you begin to develop something unshakable, belief, not the kind of belief that fades when things get tough, not surface level confidence, but deep earned internal belief, the kind that comes from taking action when no one's watching, from staying in the fight when everything in you wants to run. That belief is quiet. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It's steady. It's focused. It knows that the only way out is through. And once you have that belief, once you realize what you're capable of, when you stop waiting and start forcing yourself forward, you become dangerous to every excuse that ever held you back. You become immune to the chaos around you. You stop reacting and start directing. This is what discipline unlocks. Not just better results, but a stronger you, a more focused you, a version of you that knows who they are because they've faced the resistance and moved anyway. You don't need more time. You don't need a fresh start. What you need is a decision so strong, so clear, that hesitation has nowhere left to hide. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are simply one move away from the next level. So stop thinking. Stop waiting. Stop feeding the lie that comfort is the goal, growth is the goal, purpose is the goal, power is the goal. And that begins with action. Repeated, relentless, uncomfortable. This is your moment to reclaim everything hesitation tried to steal from you, not by force, but by choosing to move no matter what. You are not waiting on motivation. Motivation is waiting on you. It doesn't come first. It follows action. It shows up after you move, not before. That's where most people get it wrong. They sit still, waiting for the spark to light them up. But the spark only comes after the first step, after the resistance is challenged, after the decision is made. Your mind is wired to protect you. It wants to keep you in the known, the familiar, the predictable. That's not because you're weak, it's because your brain is designed for survival, not greatness. It doesn't care about your goals. It cares about safety, comfort, efficiency. But greatness isn't found in safety. It's born in risk, in effort, in breaking through the moment your mind says stop. That voice inside that tells you to wait, to take it slow, to think about it a little more. That's not wisdom. That's fear wearing a disguise. And the more you listen to it, the more power it takes. You don't need to silence the fear. You need to move through it. Fear shrinks when action grows. You don't need more confidence to begin. You need courage. Confidence comes after you've shown yourself that you can show up, stumble, and rise again. It comes when you stop measuring yourself by perfection and start honoring your effort. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be in motion. When you force yourself to take action, even in small steps, you begin to rewire what your brain believes about you. You're proving, moment by moment, that you are not your doubts. You're not your fatigue. You're not the past version of you that quit too early. You are something more, something stronger, something in progress. Every time you act despite fear, you grow. Every time you move despite not feeling ready, you evolve. That's how mental toughness is built. Not in theory, in repetition, in resistance, in showing up even when nothing around you changes, because you are the one changing. You have to stop waiting for the outside world to give you permission to level up. The world responds to who you decide to be. And that decision, that's yours. It always has been. You get to choose who shows up today. You get to choose whether you listen to the old story or write a new one. You get to choose whether today becomes just another day or the day you finally stop hesitating. There is a version of you that doesn't flinch at resistance. A version that doesn't need perfect timing. A version that is fueled by purpose, not preference. That version lives inside the discomfort. That version emerges when you stop choosing ease and start choosing growth. Growth never feels good in the beginning. It's awkward, it's frustrating, it's filled with doubt. But on the other side of that tension is clarity, power, freedom. And if you want those things, you have to earn them. You earn them by standing your ground when your emotions scream at you to quit. You earn them by doing the work when no one is watching. You earn them by moving even when the reward seems far away. And the reward is not just the outcome, it's the shift, the internal fire that comes when you finally realize you are no longer controlled by hesitation. You no longer belong to procrastination. You no longer wait for the right mood to become the right person. You become that person through discipline, through action, through choosing your future over your feelings again and again. This is not about hustling endlessly or burning out. This is about alignment, about living in a way that matches what you say you want, because you can't claim to want change and continue to make decisions that protect your comfort. You can't demand transformation without stepping into the process that requires it. Your future is waiting for you to take ownership. Not to be perfect, not to get it right every time, but to show up, to push through, to stop handing over your power to hesitation, and finally reclaim it. Every great change begins with a moment like this, a moment where you stop listening to fear and start listening to truth. The truth that says you are capable, you are ready. You are done waiting. So move, not for a perfect plan, not for applause, not for anyone else. Move because the only way out is forward. And the only thing standing in your way is the part of you that still believes you can't. Prove it wrong with action, with urgency, with relentless clarity, not someday, now. There is a power inside you that has never been fully used, not because it's missing, not because you lack something, but because you've been conditioned to believe you need permission to unleash it. You've been taught to wait, to play small, to be realistic. But the life you want doesn't live in realism. It lives in your capacity to believe in what hasn't yet shown itself. It lives in your ability to take action even when the outcome is uncertain. Everything begins with movement, not with motivation, not with clarity, just movement. Even when your hands shake, even when your mind resists, even when no one claps, you must move. Because stillness is not safety. It is slow surrender. And you are not built to surrender. Every goal that haunts you, every dream that lingers in your chest, that's not fantasy, that's direction. That's your internal compass screaming to be followed. But the longer you delay, the quieter it gets. And that silence, that's not peace. That's potential suffocating under the weight of hesitation. You cannot think your way to progress. You must act. And that action won't always feel good. It won't always feel clear, but it will be right. Because it will bring you closer to who you are meant to become. Not the version of you molded by fear. Not the version shaped by others' expectations. The real version, the one who lives beneath the noise, the one who knows that discomfort is just a sign of growth. Stop asking how long it will take. Stop measuring the distance. Start trusting the process. Start honoring your ability to choose differently, to move when every excuse says stay, to push when your past says pause. That's where identity is forged, not in ease, in effort. Consistent, imperfect, intentional effort. Most people wait for permission to change. They wait for a sign, for approval, for someone else to go first. But no one is coming. And deep down, you already know that. No one is going to hand you the confidence. No one is going to give you the green light. That's yours to create, yours to claim. You don't rise by avoiding the hard moments. You rise by walking straight into them and refusing to be broken. You rise by becoming the kind of person who shows up regardless of how they feel. And when you do that enough times, you begin to shift. Not just on the outside, but inside. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who does what they say they will do, someone who leads themselves. That's a rare thing in this world. Most people are led by impulse, by doubt, by fear dressed up as logic. But not you, not anymore. Now you know better. Now you understand that every action is a vote for the person you are becoming. And every time you choose discipline over delay, courage over comfort, effort over ease, you cast another vote for the life you want. This isn't about feeling ready. It's about being willing. Willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to stretch beyond what's comfortable. Because the truth is you cannot expand your life without expanding yourself. And expansion doesn't happen in quiet moments of convenience. It happens when you force yourself to move even while your legs tremble. Progress doesn't require perfection. It requires direction. It requires a commitment to momentum, no matter how small. Because movement, no matter how slow, always beats paralysis. It always beats regret. So stop waiting for the moment when it all makes sense. Stop searching for perfect confidence before you begin. The most powerful people aren't fearless. They just refuse to let fear make their decisions. They use fear. They walk with it. They move anyway. You can't skip this part. You can't shortcut the work, but you can decide to rise now. You can decide that your future matters more than your mood, that your purpose matters more than your comfort, that your life deserves more than delay. Everything changes when you stop treating your dreams as optional, when you stop negotiating with your potential, when you stop giving yourself a way out. That's when you begin to live with force, not force against others, but a force within. A fire that says, I will not wait another day to become who I know I can be. You are not here to merely survive this life. You are here to shape it, to lead it, to live it fully, deeply, and unapologetically. And that starts now with one choice, one act, one moment of courage. Again and again until the noise fades, until the doubt quiets, until your identity aligns with your actions. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take the next bold step. Trust that the ground will meet your feet. Trust that your effort will meet your reward. Trust that the version of you who finishes strong is built with every hard choice you make today. This is not the beginning of change. This is the change. This moment, this decision, this action. So stop holding back. Move forward like everything depends on it, because it does. There is a truth that most never grasp. Action breeds clarity, not the other way around. You don't need to have every answer before you begin. You don't need to feel perfectly ready to move. What you need is to start, to take that first step, however small, and watch as the path unfolds beneath your feet. The moment you choose movement over hesitation, you shift from being a passenger in your own life to becoming the driver. That shift is where power lives. That shift is where change becomes inevitable. You've been told to wait for the right moment, to plan until it's perfect, to prepare until fear disappears. But here's the secret. The right moment doesn't exist. Perfection is a mirage. Fear never completely fades. Those are lies crafted to keep you comfortable, stuck, predictable. But comfort isn't your calling. Stagnation isn't your destiny. Your purpose is to rise, to challenge, to push beyond every boundary that's ever been set for you, including the ones you set for yourself. The moment you force yourself into action, even when your mind screams no, you tap into a hidden strength that lives beneath doubt and hesitation. That strength is your will, your resolve, your commitment to become more than your circumstances, to redefine what's possible in your own story. It's a quiet, unyielding power that grows stronger every time you refuse to quit, every time you move despite discomfort, every time you say yes to growth over ease. Think about this. Your brain is wired to protect you from pain and risk. That means it will do everything it can to keep you safe, even if safe means trapped in a cycle of excuses and delay. But your soul, the part of you that dreams, that hungers, that burns for something greater, knows that true safety comes from mastering yourself, not avoiding challenges. The choice is yours. Will you listen to the voice of fear that whispers to stay put? Or will you answer the call of your future self who demands action today? Taking action creates momentum. Momentum crushes resistance. Momentum turns the impossible into the inevitable. When you act, you rewrite the rules of what you think you can do. The weight of doubt lessens. The fog of confusion clears. You begin to see new opportunities, new paths, new possibilities that were invisible while you stood still. That's why movement is sacred. It opens the door to transformation. You don't need to feel like a hero before you take that step. You just need to be willing to fight for your own life, to prove to yourself that your dreams are worth the struggle. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every victory starts with a simple decision to act, not perfectly, not fearlessly, but deliberately. The power of action is that it bypasses the endless loop of thinking and worrying. It interrupts the cycle of self-doubt. It shifts your identity from someone who hopes for change to someone who creates change. And that identity shift is the catalyst for everything you want. It changes how you see yourself and how the world responds to you. Don't wait to feel ready. Feel ready by moving. Feel confidence by doing. Feel courage by facing the fear with your feet on the ground and your eyes on the prize. That's how you break the chains of procrastination. That's how you escape the trap of one day. One day is a lie. Today is your chance, your moment, your point of power. When you force yourself to take action, you also reclaim control over your life. You stop being a victim of circumstance. You stop blaming time, luck, or other people for your lack of progress. You own your story. You own your results. That ownership fuels your motivation and builds unbreakable resilience. Because no matter what happens, you know you chose to move. You chose to fight. You chose to live on your terms. Remember, every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory over inertia. It's a statement that you will not be held hostage by fear or doubt any longer. It's a declaration that your future matters more than your present comfort. And every time you take that step, you reinforce a habit of action that grows stronger with repetition. This habit becomes your secret weapon. It's what separates those who dream from those who do. Those who watch life happen from those who make life happen. Those who settle for less from those who demand more. You have that power in you right now, waiting to be awakened by one simple truth: movement creates possibility. So do not underestimate the power of starting, the courage to begin, the willingness to face the discomfort. Because once you take that first step, everything changes. The weight of hesitation lifts. The illusion of impossibility fades. And a new reality begins to form, one where you are the architect of your destiny. Your life is not waiting for permission, it's waiting for action, for your decision to stop holding back and start pushing forward, for your choice to embrace discomfort as a signal of growth, not a reason to retreat, for your commitment to outwork, outlast, and outgrow every excuse that has ever tried to hold you back. You are stronger than your doubts, braver than your fears, more capable than your hesitation. The question is, will you step into that truth, or will you let another day slip away in inaction? The power lies within you in every moment you choose to act despite resistance. That power is unstoppable. That power is transformative. That power is your birthright. Claim it now. Move forward now. Because the only thing standing between you and your dreams is the courage to force yourself to take the first step and then the next. You must understand that waiting for perfect conditions is the enemy of progress. The world will never hand you the ideal moment wrapped in a neat package. The storms of doubt, the winds of uncertainty, the shadows of fear, they will always be there. But what separates those who win from those who lose is not the absence of these forces. It is the refusal to let them dictate the course of their lives. Action is a rebellion against all that tells you to stay still. It is a declaration that you will no longer be a prisoner to your fears, your excuses, or your hesitation. When you force yourself to move, you challenge the very limits your mind has tried to impose on you. You begin to redefine your reality. What once seemed impossible becomes merely difficult. What once paralyzed you becomes a step forward. This is not about reckless abandon. It is about disciplined courage. It is about moving with intention, not waiting for a signal that may never come. Each moment you delay, you reinforce the habit of inaction. Each moment you resist the pull to act, you feed the beast of doubt. But each time you push through, no matter how small the effort, you weaken that beast. You chip away at its power and build a fortress of resolve in its place. The secret is this: momentum is your greatest ally. Once you start, the next step becomes easier. The next decision becomes clearer. Movement creates energy. Energy creates belief. And belief fuels more movement. It is a cycle that builds on itself, lifting you higher and higher above the noise of self-doubt and fear. You must recognize that hesitation is a thief. It steals your time, your dreams, your potential. It seduces you with comfort and convinces you that waiting is safe. But waiting is the slow death of possibility. Action, even imperfect and uncertain, is the lifeblood of growth. It is the force that turns dreams into reality. Your mind will always offer reasons to pause. It will tell you you're not ready, not good enough, not worthy. These are lies born of survival instinct, not truth. The real truth is that you become ready by doing, you become worthy by showing up, you become good enough by taking imperfect steps forward. No one ever feels completely prepared before greatness calls. They prepare by answering the call. There is a power in making decisions, even when the outcome is unclear. Every decision to act is a vote cast for the life you desire. Every choice to move forward despite fear strengthens your identity as a doer, a fighter, a creator. And when your identity aligns with action, you become unstoppable. The process demands sacrifice. It demands discomfort. It demands resilience, but it also offers rewards beyond measure. Clarity replaces confusion. Strength replaces doubt. Freedom replaces hesitation. These are the gifts of those who refuse to wait for the world to be perfect before they rise. You must remember, no one else will create your future for you. The power to change, to grow, to succeed, it lies entirely in your hands. Waiting for external approval or ideal circumstances is a surrender of that power. Taking action, no matter how small, is reclaiming it. This is the moment when you decide who you will be. Will you let fear hold you back another day? Or will you push through, knowing that every step forward is a victory over the forces that try to keep you down? The choice is yours. and it is the most important one you will make. The truth is simple. Success is not a gift bestowed on the lucky. It is earned by those who choose action over comfort, progress over procrastination, courage over complacency. It is built one decision, one movement, one relentless push at a time. So stand up, take a breath, force yourself to move, because the future you want is waiting, not for a perfect moment, but for the courage to start. Not for certainty, but for determination. Not for permission, but for action. Your life will never be changed by waiting. It will only be transformed by the boldness to take that first step and then the next. And when you do, you become the author of your destiny, the master of your fate, and the force that nothing can stop. You have to recognize something crucial. Action is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. It's a relentless habit that shapes your character, molds your destiny, and fuels your success. Waiting for motivation to strike or inspiration to appear is a trap. Motivation is fleeting. It's unpredictable. What lasts is commitment. Commitment to take action even when you don't feel like it, even when the road is rough, even when the outcome is uncertain. This is where most people fail. Not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they fail to build the muscle of consistent action. They wait for feeling ready, for the stars to align, for everything to be perfect. But perfection never arrives. The stars remain scattered, and the only way to reach them is by taking imperfect steps repeatedly. That's where real strength is forged. Every time you force yourself to act despite resistance, you build a foundation of discipline that no external force can shake. This discipline becomes your anchor when the seas of doubt and fear rise high. It keeps you steady when the world tries to pull you back into old patterns of avoidance and delay. It turns hesitation into momentum and hesitation into victory. Understand this: every success story you admire started with someone who refused to wait. They chose action over comfort, courage over fear, persistence over procrastination. Their greatness wasn't born from ease, but from the relentless refusal to stop moving forward. They acted when it hurt. They acted when it was uncomfortable. They acted when the mind screamed to quit, and that's exactly why they won. The psychology behind action is simple, but powerful. Taking action activates a feedback loop inside your brain. When you move, your brain releases dopamine, a chemical associated with reward and motivation. This creates a feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction, reinforcing the desire to continue. In other words, action generates its own motivation. The hardest part is always the first step, but once you take it, momentum pulls you forward. That is why forcing yourself to act is the ultimate catalyst for change. It's important to realize that the scale of your action doesn't matter as much as the consistency. Small, deliberate actions compounded over time create explosive results. It's not about giant leaps, but about steady steps that never stop. Every time you push through resistance and act, you deepen your belief in yourself. You weaken the grip of fear. You rewire your brain to expect progress, to anticipate success. This daily commitment to action transforms you from a passive dreamer into an active creator. It changes your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone waiting for life to happen. You become the force that makes life happen. This shift is unstoppable. It's magnetic. It attracts opportunities, people, and resources aligned with your purpose. Never underestimate the power of showing up. Showing up, even when you feel weak, uninspired, or doubtful, is the greatest act of self-respect. It tells your subconscious mind that you are serious about your dreams. It tells the universe that you are ready to claim what's yours.